Hey guys, so thank you so much for filling out that survey for me. I'm the person behind the survey and my name's Jen. I really appreciate you taking the time out to just, write down whatever it was you felt and ask me some questions. And now this is a way for me to respond to you. Now I've got quite a nice big group of people who've responded and we've got some interesting questions. So I thought I'd make this little video just to share my findings, share with you. Maybe some of these questions were your questions, and knowing that if you have anything further that you're interested in, whether you're a clinician, a practitioner, or whether you're looking for this for yourself, feel free to get in touch after you've received this. I'll put my email at the bottom and then we can go from there. So I'll just get the questions up. So the first one was a pretty obvious one. Let's define trauma. So if we look at the word trauma, the etymology of that actually means wound or wounded. So that can be something that's either physically or emotionally wounded. And that's what the word trauma means. It's inability to cope and respond, feeling overwhelmed with the situation that is in front of you. Going through a trauma is a real extreme lack of choice, both physical and relational. So a trauma, as we know, is not something that we would choose to do. It's a shock to the system. And then from the trauma, in this extreme lack of choice, we then are overwhelmed and have this inability to cope and respond as we normally would, working with this frontal lobe. We're focusing on what's normally happening, but instead we're sort of switched off and we go into a fight, flight, or freeze mode. It's between normal yoga and this yoga for trauma, and it's a great question. I know that it can be quite confusing with all these new types of yoga coming out, and there's such a big wide variety of this physical yoga that we have in our daily life and we can see out and about. And I know this is just another one, but what I'll do today in this little video is to just sort of break it down quite simply, the big distinctions between general yoga classes, whether that's Ashtanga, Vinyasa, Hatha, Yin, whatever that is, and the difference between this yoga for trauma. So I also teach Hatha yoga, and so this is where my roots of learning have come from originally, and then it's fed me through into this yoga for trauma practice through different trainings and different practitioners. We can talk about that another day. So in this yoga for trauma, the main difference here is that you really are not being told what to do in a class. So normally when you have a practice and you go to a class, the teacher will say, let's breathe in and raise our arms up. And we all do. We breathe in and we raise our arms up. And that's something that isn't allowing this choice. So the main distinctions really to focus on is being given this choice. So we've just discussed that going through a trauma is an extreme lack of choice. In this practice, we're given the choice. We're not telling people how to move their bodies. I'm not there expecting or wanting anyone to achieve anything in this practice. It's so intuitive and unique and personal to you. So the way we do this is through a bottom-up processing. So this is rather than a top-down. So this is the body telling you, hey, this is where I want to move now, and then the body moves. And if we're not sure, we just feel into, and then we can start assessing without any judgment, without any inhibitions. We listen to the body and then we move from the body, and then the body then sort of tells the mind this is what's happening, rather than the mind going, hey, we should have just raised our arms up and this is what it should look like, and all this aesthetic nonsense that may come into it. Instead, we're really just coming into the physical body. And the main differences here is that we're really working with interoception. So whether you've heard of interoception before or not, it's okay. It's all to do with this present moment experiencing from inside of your body, rather than this exteroception, which is everything outside and external. This is something that's really, really internal, and it will be different for everybody, and it will feel different moment to moment. And it's a way of really linking up our neurological connection to our own experiences. So we're learning to move into comfort, away from discomfort. We're feeling into sensation to help regulate the nervous system this way. We're exploring the body in a safe and responsible way. And like I said, it's based upon this interoception, which can be really quite curious. We can really feed our curiosity by navigating and feeling different areas. There hasn't got to be a set direction. It's befriending our body and really knowing that this is a safe place to live, and through different movements and flows and stillness, exploring the breath, how the breath moves us, working with little meditations, is all a way to feed this through. So for some people, I say it's really a lot of unlearning. It's a lot of deconditioning, because it doesn't matter whether we've had a practice of yoga before or whether this is the first time we've ever heard of it. It's an opportunity to really come back into the present moment just as it appears. So another great question, which made me giggle because quite a lot of people asked it in the same way, is how does it work? With a big question mark. And I thought that was brilliant. So of course the main questions we're going to wonder is, what is this stuff and how does it really work? So I'll tell you. So how does it work? So it's yoga, and like we just mentioned, that there's so many different ways we can look at the structure of yoga, but here we're not looking at any Sanskrit, any focus on energies, nothing to do with sublimation or anything. Instead, it's really just coming back into the physical body, into this first sheath. So the main purpose of this practice is to empower and make new connections in a personal and then into a wider community. So we're making these connections with our physical body and our physical self, learning how it feels to be in here, and then that can echo out into make new connections and not have feelings of neglect and not worthiness, but instead this real empowerment. And we do this through understanding of the self and self-worth. So, of course, we're exploring aspects of yoga from the East, that's where it's from, but we're also exploring this research from the West around trauma theory, attachment theory, and neuroscience. So it's this beautiful combination and balance of them both. So it's not one way saying this is the only way. This is looking at everything quite broadly and specifically focusing on how this type of movement, stillness, interoceptive practice can really help people going through trauma. So it's bringing your physical reality and your neurological reality in sync. So people who may have complex trauma really struggle with this interoceptive pathway, and by doing this practice, we're actually building this up in the insular cortex, and by allowing this to sort of grow, knowing that we can now change the shape of our brains by actually focusing on certain things like interoception, which is the interoception region of the brain is the insular cortex, we can then learn to perceive feelings in our own body. Something so simple as learning how to feel inside the body has these profound, profound effects. So I'll just touch upon it here, but if you've got more questions, please shoot me a message. Another great question was groups or privates? How does it work? What's the deal? Let's have a little chat about that. So group sessions are available as well as privates. So that's where we work one-on-one together. So whether it suits you better to be in a group environment, great. or whether you prefer to have that more intimate, closed environment, great, that's available too. So I'll just speak very briefly about the differences. Some will be quite obvious, others maybe new. So I run workshops and courses, and these are for 4 and 8 weeks, and also general classes. So in all of these, I will cap the numbers at 10. So it's a real, even though you're in a group, you're not in a massive herd of people, you're really in a nice small group with enough space, no mats touching or anything like this. So groups are brilliant and really beautiful, and I run men's and women's groups together and separate, and so we can really establish this safety. Groups, again, they're really great because you can start really building those connections from a community that you'll see, same group each week, and it's my experience of running these has just been wonderful, really great. The difference then between a private session is it's one-on-one. So instead of me sitting in a chair and observing, it's the opposite. I'm down on the ground with you if we're sitting down, and we learn and move with you. So instead of, again, there's no rules, there's no saying, hey, let's do this. It's we're really listening in, and I'm really holding that space for you. And because we're moving together, I'll follow you. This allows you to really explore and really get into these areas where the body's asking to go. And if we don't know what that is, that's okay. These spaces are non-confrontational. There's nothing, like I said, there's nothing we're trying to achieve. There's nothing we're aiming for. Each session will be different. I work very intuitively, and so rather than this is the strict rule of what's going to happen this hour, we're going to do this. Instead, we meet you exactly where you are that day. And that day may be different to when we saw each other last week, and that's great. That's okay. We'll learn to notice. We'll learn to really establish what's happening moment to moment so that we can get through and be empowered. So sessions can also, in groups, I tend to have either 60 minutes or 75 minutes, and then privates options of 30 minutes, 60 minutes, or if you want to have a longer session, then that's available too, 75 or 90. Some clients like to have smaller sessions just to sort of get a little dip their toes in, and then we can see how we go from there. Like I said, there's no strict rules. This is your opportunity to really come into the body, come into the physical body, so we can release things out of the physical body in a real safe, real nurturing and responsible way. So the next question was, who's this for? People asked it in different ways, but end of the question goes is, who is this yoga for trauma for? And the simple answer is everybody. It's open for everybody, no matter what age, stage, background, doesn't matter. Everyone's welcome to come. But specifically what it's designed for is people with complex trauma. But just because this is designed for someone with complex trauma, that doesn't mean that it will not benefit people who have PTSD, eating disorders, sleep deprivation, chronic stress, chronic fatigue, anxiety, depression, something like along these lines, It's a way of really allowing yourself to not be stuck in some of these labels. So trauma sensitive yoga specifically, like I mentioned, is designed for complex trauma, but it's so hugely beneficial for many other people. And if any of these sound like you or someone that you may know, something that you have a little more questions about, or something you'd really like to just get that experience for yourself, then do reach out and get in touch. And a question just to close, which is a nice way to sort of encapsulate this, is where can I find this? I've never heard of this, and where can I do some? Where can I explore? like I've said many times, great question. So whether you're overseas, a little bit further away from WA, where I am in Margaret River, then send me a message if this is something you'd like to explore with a practitioner one-on-one, and I can potentially send you a contact. If not, I also offer online courses. These are for 8 weeks, and it's a way of really getting that integration. It's distance, and so I can't make a cup of tea for you, but the same content is still there, and we can have contact throughout the whole 8 weeks, as and when things may come up. Additionally, if you are local for where I am in Margaret River, I also go up to Bunbury once a fortnight, and then I also come up to Perth as well quite often, and this is where I also run courses and workshops. So get in touch if a group feels like something that would suit you, and we can go from there. Alternatively, again, if you feel that working privately might be a great way for you to maybe dip your toes into this, or maybe you feel like you'd like that privacy in that smaller setting with just me, then again, reach out. I also do home visits, and so that means I can come to you, or you can come to me at my home studio, and we can take it from there. So there's a lot of options available. And if you want to stay subscribed to this newsletter, which I've put you in because you answered my survey, thank you so much. I also send through some free content as well. So you can always get some videos to your very own home, totally for free. And it'll just be through this emailing with a video. So I'll wrap it up there. If, like I said, if anyone has any questions, like I said, again, if this is for you, maybe a friend, maybe a family member, maybe you're the practitioner yourself that works with trauma, or maybe it's something that some of your clients come in for, or whatever it is, feel free. Don't be a stranger. I'm new to the area too. I've only been here for about a year, so it'd be great to meet some new people. And yeah, thanks so much, and I'm sure we'll speak soon. And as this is a model that's come from the West, people now want research and statistics and facts, which is awesome, because then people can really get that solid understanding, and then it can start getting brought into these more clinical ways of thinking. So what I'll do is I'll attach some links down here to some awesome articles, and so you can really read firsthand. Rather than me explaining to you, you can read it firsthand and see the amazing, profound results from this beautiful practice of yoga for trauma.